Right. So, yeah.
Radio. What I want to do today is just jump into systems, processes, softwares, and the running of a serviced accommodation operation. I know Michael's asked me a few times about it. So, in the Kajabi program, there is my initial early days of what I did and how I connected everything together, which was quite complicated. And, as you go through your journey, you start to simplify things, but also improve them. So, I want to kind of run through that for a serviced accommodation operation as such, and kind of show you how it all flows in terms of how we do it, and then how you guys can maybe use it to strengthen your businesses as well. So in terms of where we start is typically with your channel manager, which for me, Uplisting is the best channel manager that we've used, and it just ticks a lot of the boxes. So it takes the contracts, it keeps the guests' identifications, it takes the deposits to make sure that we're fully secure on that front, and really does make a difference to what you're doing. And then I think what obviously that does in the main is link to your pricing software. So at the minute, I do use Price Labs. I've used Price Labs for quite some time, and I think it is a great software. I know I spoke to Wheelhouse, and so it's 21st July today. I spoke to Wheelhouse last week, and they are about 2 to 3 weeks away from getting the whole of the UK covered. And then I'll be moving over to them. I just think they give a lot more data, and they can help with future projections, and it just helps you make those decisions a lot easier on acquiring the right units, seeing what the nightly rates are going to be, having a look at the history, and it just is a bit cleverer of a platform, albeit it is more expensive, but at the same time, I believe the investment is worth it because of the ROI I'll get back on making better decisions, and the way it'll bring in more revenue per booking. The way it works, it's algorithms for the gap days and stuff. So regardless of what you're doing, obviously it's really important to have a pricing tool in play, because the booking channels, they work on seeing that you're actively doing something with your listing. So not only will you capture far out bookings for higher amounts of revenue than, say, if you didn't have a channel manager in play, pricing software in play, and you just had a flat £75 a night throughout the whole year. If someone wants to book 10 weeks down the line, they're not motivated by price. They're motivated by securing those dates because something's going on. So we need to maximize that revenue. And that then counterbalances any nights that we sell really cheaply. Now, in terms of your gap fill nights, when we're talking about selling nights cheap, you're better to get money in the bank than not. So for argument's sake, let's say your average price is £200 a night, and you have 4 nights available throughout, say, a 30-day month. Well, you'd be better off dropping that down to sort of 60 quid and getting 240 quid in the till than just letting those 4 nights disappear. You got to remember, in this game, we're not selling a property, we're selling time. And every time that goes by that we don't have someone in the property, we lose money, or we don't gain any extra money. So it's really important that we try and maximize it. And pricing tools help you do that almost automatically. And, with clever customizations and the way you set them up, you can charge more further out, you can reduce prices as it comes further down, and it all gets done automatically. And it means that you're not missing opportunities. So really important that you do plug a pricing software in as well. And then for me, I think why I've been able to scale so quickly and continue to do so is because of what goes on behind the scenes once we get those bookings. Whenever you first get started, you do everything yourself. You do the cleaning, you do the linen, you're dealing with the guest hassle, the phone calls, the messaging on Airbnb, and all that becomes part of it. Uplisting's a great tool for that because it brings all the messaging into one environment. So you're not having to go into different apps. And I think the less apps you can use, the better. If you look at some of my previous videos, it was definitely a lot of apps there. So I've really condensed it down now. So we have, the channel manager, which forms a large part of that front end guest management. And then from that, I would say we connect three tools, probably including our software. So we've got ClickUp, which I'll come on to, which is what I built out. We have Get Properly, which is our cleaning app. Now, Uplisting does have a decent cleaning app, but for me, I need to be able to visually see the properties without going to the properties. I need to make sure that the cleaners are doing a good job and not just putting an invoice in and then we're getting bad reviews. And also that there is a task list that they complete and they cannot not complete it. That is the main thing with cleaners. And that's what Get Properly really does for us, is it gives them, 96, I think, tasks, and there's about 18 to 17 photographs that we need for each property. They can't move on to the next job until they've completed that. So it means that nothing gets missed. And as you know, all it takes is one small thing to get missed and the guest's complaining, and all of a sudden your 300 quid booking is now a refund, but they've still taken one night up and you've lost the money, So you've got to, invest in these systems and softwares that are right for your business, as long as you're using them. There's no point plugging that app in if you're not checking the data, if you're not keeping on top of the work. If you're just plugging it in for the sake of plugging it in, you'd be better off not having it. So that's one of the things I see quite often is, you've got to have processes behind the scenes to check things. So we have, at the end of every day, we have an administration element to the business that does check the cleaner's time spent per property, and also that all the jobs and tasks have been completed, because the time spent, they can and will take the piss if you allow them to get away with it. And because we pay per hour, that then means we make less money. So we have to be on top of it. We have to be on top of the financials. In this game, it's not just about saving money making money on the front end. You can make just as much on the back end by keeping a tight control on your costs. Same goes for linen, same goes for consumables. We've had cleaners stealing off us in terms of the little shampoos and the little conditioners. And we know that because we track them. We've got stock control. We know when there's an overusage going on, and we can spot the trends. So, but because we're on the data and we're looking at it. We then go into ClickUp, and I'll show you ClickUp now. Great tool, and best thing about it is it is free. So if we go to the board view. So you might have seen this before. There's many other softwares out there. Trello's the same, and Asana we used to use, but ClickUp for me is just, I like it. It's visually very good. And let's just have a look why there's nothing pulling through here, because there should be bear with me 1 second. As you can see here, guest management, there's 1,209 tasks within this board. But for some strange reason, I must have the viewers unsaved changes. I must have a view or there we go, a filter. Let's take that off. Let's just refresh that, see if that makes a difference. There should be all these tasks in here, and I kind of want to give you an idea of how it works.
I reckon if you've got Eli or something written in the
there we go, in the search task. It's always the simple things, hopefully. Let's come back up again now. Anyway, I'm not sure why this is in, but the principle of it is, what happens here is, here we go. So every time there is a booking comes in from Uplisting, I use Zapier, which is a task zap tool, to zap these bookings into the queue. And it puts the information in automatically, and then it puts it in this level. Cancellations go into here, and then what we have to do, unfortunately, is try and marry the two up and remove them from the queue. And then what we do is we move them along. So have they made a payment? If so, we drag the card to there. Is the payment due? Have they made the payment? Have we verified their ID, or should I say, have we not verified their ID? So they've decided to try and not put their ID into the uplisting software. This then flags, because we've got someone checking it every day. The guest management team are checking. Basically, they just log into this board and go through the various elements of the stays to see who's doing when, and obviously what we're doing. ID not verified, so these people will not get their lockbox codes. They will not get their check-in information unless they do this part. So what we want to do is, rather than wait for them to ring us and say, I'm stood outside your property, I've got no information, which could be any time of day, we could miss the call, it could cause chaos, and it could also reduce their experience. We want to get ahead of that and say, listen, Jack, obviously you missed the part on your booking where you had to upload your identification. I'm going to send you a link now, and I need you to do that. Obviously, we then just ping the uplisting link forward, and that then gives him the opportunity to submit his ID.
How can you, with uplisting? So I had it when a couple of days ago, or no, last night, someone sort of booked last minute. Mm-hmm. So then uplisting sent out the lockbox code instantly. Just so then
there is a setting. There's a setting in uplisting, if you speak to their chat support, where it will only send it if certain conditions have been met.
Okay.
So if you've got that on, then if they don't upload their ID, then they should not get the codes.
Okay. All
right. Same for the contract. Same for a deposit. So contract not signed, as you say, same thing. Deposit not collected. So this guy here thought he can try and not pay a deposit. So obviously he won't get the code. So this bit here is where the guest handlers will spend most of their time each day, sort of chasing guests to get proactive, so we're not reacting against problems, because there's nothing worse than your phone going off when you don't want it to go off, to react to problems. You cannot structure your day. You cannot get organized. You get overwhelmed. You get flustered, and it just changes your energy levels. So you've got to get on top of all this. We then have them awaiting move-in. We have the guests in stay. We have the checkouts completed. We have awaiting damage payments. So anybody that's made a damage, we will put them in here and we'll not complete them. We then do the Google review. So we request Google reviews, and then they move into completed, and then they disappear off this board fairly sharp afterwards. So that is how we move our whole process from start to finish in terms of this software. So the bookings come in automatically, then the guest handlers just log in every day and just basically focus on this board. Now what they will do is they'll sort by due date, and we will go, or you can tell I don't really go into this much these days, but filter, sorry. I don't want to sort by due date. I'm going to filter by due date. Due date is sort of whatever, next 7 days or tomorrow. And then they can see, okay, what's urgent now? Let's go through all this. Okay, so we've got 14 people due to check in tomorrow. We need to get them through the process today, or we're going to have a nightmare tomorrow. So that's how I use ClickUp. And then from ClickUp, or in terms of the only other area of the business that this then links into, really, is our account software. So I have it now where my bookkeeper will actually just pull the data down from uplisting and then upload it into our account software. But you can have Zaps creating the invoices as the bookings come in. Depends how complicated your account software is behind the scenes. I know when I first was doing it with very little class codes, etc., it was very much just zapped into Xero, and then it created an invoice, and then I would reconcile the invoice with the payments as and when I saw them come through. As time's gone on, I need more reporting for my business, for the things that I look at every morning as part of my due diligence over the business, and I therefore need more complex reports, which has meant that sometimes the Zaps don't necessarily work, but that's why I've got a bookkeeper who works for me full time and sorts all that stuff out for me. So that's a natural progression that you will get to. So that is pretty much how the service accommodation business now operates behind the scenes. A lot less apps, a lot less complicated, fairly seamless once it's all put together. And it does really, I cannot stress enough how much you need to be proactive in your systems and processes rather than being reactive, or you will not scale your business. You'll get sucked into the operations. You'll not be able to do anything but deal with guests, deal with cleaners, deal with linen nightmares. And the only thing I probably haven't mentioned is we use Slack as a communication channel between the team to talk through various elements. If anything in Slack is mentioned, so if I was to say, Nick, I need you to do X, Y, Z, and you were part of the team, then what we would do is in Slack, we press a button which links to ClickUp, and then it sets a task in Nick's board, in his to-do list, because chats can easily get lost, especially if one guest handler's on a weekend, they don't come back till Friday, and there's been a whole week's worth of chat. There's no point asking her something on a Monday, knowing she's never going to see that chat. So we still have the communication, but if it's a task, if someone asks someone to do a task, we will then set a task in ClickUp so that that task doesn't get missed. We put a time and a date on it, and we put who is responsible for that task. And that keeps the whole business singing and dancing and hopefully heading in the right direction at all times. Not all plain sailing. I've had to tweak and test and try and change as we go on, but I feel like we get better and better and better every single time that we operate. I mean, there was over 1,000 bookings in that system right now. That's a lot of bookings that we need to be dealing with, but we probably have less hassle now than when I had 100 bookings in a system, because the system wasn't fit for purpose. Whereas I do feel like now we're really getting there in terms of where we are. And we've been using this now since probably the turn of the year, I would say, in this current format, with a few minor tweaks. So hopefully that helps. Like many things, people think it's a lot more complicated behind the scenes than it needs to be. But they are what I would say your priority softwares that you need to link together. And if you can, do it in that way, then you should have a fairly seamless business. And so over to any questions on that, or if you have any other questions just regarding your businesses in general.
I just want to say, Ryan, this is the first holiday I've had to start doing service accommodation. And I've had a couple of messages come through from guests, the shower doesn't work and this type of carry on. Do you know what I mean? But I think the stage I'm at, I'm going to have to just do that for now until I do scale up. But it is a pain because you react into things, and I say, well, I'll get the plumber to come and have a look. So if I then text the plumber, and then he texts back, messages back on Uplisting saying it's okay, the wife's fixed it. So I've then got a message to the plumber to say don't bother going back around again, it's been sorted. Do you know what I mean? So like, how quickly do you react to problems, like if showers don't work? Or
yeah, I think we have like priority levels. So, is it urgent? Is it going to affect the booking straight away? Is it something that we might just tactfully ignore to see if they solve it themselves? Because 9 times out of 10 they do. So you can, it's all about balancing the customer experience and also balancing your work department stress levels and everything else that goes with it behind the scenes. So most guests will figure stuff out if you leave them to it. Right. Obviously, when I was sat in Portugal on bank holiday with my first Airbnb and I got 7 missed calls, and then the phone call was, there's water pouring out your boiler, then obviously that's a priority, right? And I had to take action on that, and they couldn't fix that themselves. But, most things they can figure out themselves, especially as we go into the winter months, heating, blah, blah, blah. But the more you get in your automated messages in Uplisting, the more you give the guest, the less hassle you get. You want to try and create maintenance manuals, check in, and it can be in an email. What I'm actually building out now to get more visitors back to my website for ultimately getting more bookings is an FAQ section for every single property, but I'll host it on my website. So it'll say, you know, to get like the property manual for this property, click on the link and it'll take them to a page on my website, which is my booking site. So if they haven't seen that before, then at least they know they've got that. And if they want to then rebook or they want to come back, they've got the booking website there. There's also an upsell page on there, which, you know, a big opportunity that we miss is early check-ins, early checkouts, £25 for either. We do packages, so we'll do like a booze package, we'll do a romantic package, etc., etc. And it's all on our WooCommerce site, which is on our website. And they can go on, they all get that as the check as they've made a booking. Would you like to, get any extras? And we put that in there. I'm working on building that up more and more and more because, you know, if we take a £55, £65 booking on a 1-bed flat, but we can get a late checkout fee of 25 quid, well, we've almost increased our revenue by 30% on that one booking. You know, and people will pay this for early, especially if they've been out drinking, especially if they're running late or just need a bit more flexibility. You know, you can charge these payments, and we collect good revenue from that. You know, and but it's about having a system and a process behind the scenes to be able to deliver that almost automatically.
How do you go about charging? So if I've got like a guest on a Sunday morning that said, "Can we check out at like 1 or something?" How do you go about charging them? Do you just...
So we have the link to the website. There's 2 ways you can do it, and I'm not really sure which one I'm a fan of. I like the link because it's automatic, but the downside of sending the link to somebody is if they don't do it and you don't check it, they could potentially then stay anyway, check out, disappear, and you'll never get the money. I'm much more in fan, and I've got the team in place to do it, of no problem, I'm going to give you a call, you ring them, you get their 16 credit card numbers, expiry date, all that sort of stuff, and go into Stripe, create an invoice, and then just bill the customer straight away.
And then do you just let the cleaners know to go in a bit later on?
Yeah. Yeah. Worst case scenario, even if you've got to pay the cleaner an extra £5 or £10 to not go in, you've still made 15 quid.
Yeah.
You know, but most cleaners are quite flexible, especially as you grow and they get a lot of work from you. They are very flexible. So it's really the upsell side of things it's not going to make you a millionaire, but it all adds to the pot, right? And it all just is those extra bits that we can get from every property every single month. But if you don't offer it to people, you know, we do have a late checkout service. If you'd like to know more, what's the call to action? Or we have an early check-in service. If you'd like to know more, what's the call to action? But you want to make sure that it's as automated as possible for people to get the information. And then you want to be making sure that your services behind the scenes allow for a smooth customer experience. You can use Hostfully and I think people like that for guidebooks and digital this and digital that. For me, I want to get more people onto my website, so I'm just going to basically create that on my website, and we'll do that way.
I found that my cleaners recently, if I've got to check out on Monday, but then I've not got a guest going in until Wednesday, they're not going in on the Monday.
Yeah, well, that's just not acceptable.
Yeah, so I've driven past it and the windows are open or whatever.
Is that because you're giving them? The access to uplisting so they can see what's due in?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. So you've got to say to them, I've noticed that you're not cleaning the property on the same day. We are constantly open for business, so I need you to be cleaning them on the same day before whatever your check-in time is. On checkout times, we've actually changed ours from 10 till 3. No, from 11 till 3 to 10 to 4. Prior to COVID, that actually would affect bookings, but we have been so busy that we needed to buy ourselves an extra couple of hours a day, and it hasn't had any impact on the bookings. So try and buy your cleaners as much time as possible. Also, having a later checkout and an earlier checkout, later check-in will drive more little 25 quids to check in early, check out late. So it's kind of two-pronged attack there.
We got caught out with this last week. because we didn't have a book until the Tuesday. The last person checked out on the Sunday, and then we got an instant booking.
I've been there far too many times in the early days, and you cannot allow that to happen. I just played hell with the team in Dubai, exactly the same. We had a flat checked out last week, and I'm like, why hasn't this been cleaned? Oh well, we've blocked it off. There's a couple of issues happened that we need to get sorted, so we've blocked it off. I'm like, that's not the point. The cleaning team have to understand they have to go in and get that split mint. We cannot be held hostage to cleaning teams, And if they can't do that, then they're not the right team for you, and you got to go and recruit elsewhere.
I've found getting good cleaners one of the hardest things.
Welcome to my world.
That just seems like, because I think
cleaners are
the most important thing as well, really.
It is, yeah. A couple of things with cleaners. So, one, you've got to remember that they're not really motivated by money, because they wouldn't be cleaning if they were. Two, most of them are mums who have young kids. So you want to try and get them working between sort of drop-offs at nursery and then before they've got to pick them back up again. This is very generalizations, but this is typically what we find. And then a good cleaner will last 10 weeks. A really good cleaner will last several months, if not longer. Most cleaners will last 2 to 4 weeks. So you need to be constantly recruiting cleaners. We constantly have cleaners, constantly recruiting cleaners, interviewing them, asking them what their rates are, availability, etc., and you should be building a bank of cleaners that you can go to. And then as you expand, you have that ability. But the cleaning market, should we say, since COVID, a lot of the foreign nationals, your sort of Eastern Europeans that were doing a lot of that type of work, they've gone home because they weren't getting furlough, because they were all cash in hand type people, So they've disappeared. And I was having a conversation with the owner of the cleaning company that cleans my house. And she's from Poland, and she was basically saying, like, I've lost most of my girls because they've all gone home during COVID. So there is a bit of a shortage in the cleaning world. We've had to increase how much we're paying per hour just to get jobs done. But that is what it is. It'll always go in peaks and troughs. You just got to be recruiting all the time for cleaners. Never think that you're comfortable with a good cleaner.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So it's a pain, but it's part of the game, and it's part of your operation. But you've got to be keeping on top of them. Simple tweak. Let me tell you a story. So I noticed that we were paying a cleaner down in Hull. Every single week, her invoice was the same amount of money. And I said, well, this just isn't possible. We pay them per hour. There's no way in the world she spends 120 minutes on the dot exactly every single time. And then it kept coming in and kept coming in. So I spoke to the team. I said, we need to have a conversation with this cleaner. For starters, 2 hours for a 2-bed property is too long. They need to be quicker, and their invoice is too much. So we spoke to them. Last week's invoice was £42. So what have I said? I've saved £14 twice last week. So I've saved 28 quid. Times that by 52 weeks of the year, you've saved yourself over 1,200 quid. It's little things like that you've got to be on top of. And you can only do that if you're on top of your financials. If you're on top of your data and you understand what's going on in your business.
Have you got like a profit and loss sheet for each unit?
I have. I pull it from my account software. What I'm talking about with the complex reports. So I have my accounts split into properties I own, properties I manage, and properties I rent. Properties I own that I run as tenancies, properties I own that I run as HMOs, properties I own as I run as serviced accommodation units. Then same for my managed stuff, same for my rented stuff. And then from that, I get an individual property breakdown as well. So that every time we have a cost, we allocate it to a property. Every time we have revenue, we allocate it to a property. And at the end of the month, well, I actually get the reports daily, but at the end of the month, we do then a full deep dive analysis on the performance monthly, quarterly, and year to date. And we're constantly seeing the trends in the various areas, the various properties. and that's what allows us to scale.
So that's all through your accountant.
So, well, you can do it yourself through Xero or through QuickBooks. It's just setting it all up.
I've looked at Xero, and it's just, I'm not sure how to separate them.
Yeah, so with Xero, you need to it's in the class items and the properties tag. So, but you need to the best thing to do with Xero would be to jump onto their support and tell them what you're looking to achieve, and they'll tell you exactly how to do it.
Okay.
Awesome. Any more questions? Let Nick go back to his sunbed now.
Where are you, Nick?
And he's cruise.
Right. I'm on a cruise to Dubai. I've 4 holidays cancelled, so but it's just around the UK.
Oh, nice.
So we'll stop at Belfast, and that's it, and then back again. So at Southampton.
Well, good weather for it.
Oh, aye. It's been good. Like, needed it, I tell you.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna I'll get all this uploaded into Kajabi for you all. If there's any follow-up questions, just hit me on Voxer, and I'll catch you up next week.
Right. Cheers. Thanks, Sam.
Cheers. Bye.